Hello, everybody, and welcome to Tech2 Science Podcast Earth, Space, and the Human Race. I'm Abigail,
I'm Kavya.
and in this fourth episode, we're going to be talking to two experts a campaigner for healthcare equality and a seasoned healthcare management professional about whether universal healthcare is the right move for India once the coronavirus pandemic blows over.
Yes, and joining us today for this episode is Angela Taneja, who is the lead campaigner for equality and the lead specialist for essential services at Oxfam India, which is one of the leading nonprofits working to uphold education and healthcare rights in the country. We also have with us Dr. Velumani, who's a scientist and entrepreneur and the founder, chairman, and managing director and CEO of Thydocare, which is a prominent name in the diagnostics and preventive healthcare space in India. So thank you so much for doing this, Abigail.
Thank you.
Let's jump right into it. So universal healthcare has been an important concept and model that's been talked about all over the world. This past year, we've seen a lot of talk in India, largely from politicians, about universal health coverage. Health is one of those things that is an enormous expense at the personal level. And globally, as of 2015, 10% of the world's GDP goes towards health and healthcare systems. And rightfully so, because it's so very important to have a good health infrastructure in a country. But we've also seen that unequal access to healthcare is a big issue. 80% of the people in the world live in developing nations like India, and these countries combined only account for about 20% of the health expenses globally. So that's a pretty shocking statistic.
So, universal health coverage is a big deal, but the general idea is that people can access affordable medical health care without taking big hits to their finances or going into poverty. And for India, universal health care could be an important means of making healthcare accessible to all, because as of 2019, 25% of people in rural India and 17% of people in urban areas are below the poverty line. Anything else I'm missing over here, Dr. Velumani, Angela, anything I would like to add?
All these numbers which you are telling is based upon where you hold the poverty line. And if
Yeah.
the poverty line is put into some Western developed countries indices, India 90% is below poverty line. But having said that, we can always put the line in 50% of the middle of the pyramid, which means 60% are below poverty line and 40% is above poverty line. So this is more right when you look at pyramid of India.
Healthcare is a right that people enjoy. What is stopping the government from providing it for free? And why is going to a hospital or getting a medical checkup so expensive, Dr. Velumani?
See, the challenge is the costs are very heterogeneous. Some solutions might need just a $20 to $50 solution. Some might need a $20,000 to $50,000 solution. So it is not that easy to just tell all services for everybody. We can make it available even for government, especially for a government which has challenges still in giving the basic needs of the society in terms of sanitation, in terms of education also. It's very nice to see countries like UK, US, and European countries have matured over a period of time, all because of their higher per capita income. So if you ask me why Indian government does not give facilities, though Indian government also can try somewhere to start and then work on it, improve it. But as of today, there is no system available, and I don't think government is serious to consider something in terms of universal healthcare solution. Immediate future, they have been talking for the last 5-10 years period. Some scheme was announced just some 18 months back. It was to take off. COVID has jeopardized it. We believe government will certainly initiate it, will spend some money and slowly improve the spending, and will reach to that kind of spending which will not collapse it. that kind of spending which will be sustainable.
And the scheme you were talking about is under the National Health Mission, is it? Is it
Yeah,
the
that is the Ayushman Bharat scheme,
yeah.
where they intend to give solutions free of cost, and the big hospitals have not taken part in it. The healthcare solution providers also for the same solution charge anywhere from X to 10x, and the rich people want 10x solutions, poor people want any solution, and given an option, poor also want 10x free. So that is forcing the luxury hospitals avoid this, because once they become a member of this, then they can't discriminate between rich and poor. So there is a lot of implementation challenges for the government. And
Yeah.
as long as human race exists as club class and business class and economy class, healthcare also need to go through that stage routes only to make it reachable.
Angela, could you also get into what, I mean, we've been talking about universal healthcare, but what are the actual principles that underline it? I mean, we've heard different versions of it. Maybe you could enlighten us as to what universal healthcare is, and if there are any reasons that India particularly would benefit from this system. For instance, we have a lot of health security challenges and population size. Would this be in any way useful for India in particular, considering some of the challenges to healthcare? Can you?
So fundamentally, when I last checked, India's constitution made every citizen equal. So nothing is more visible and nothing is more unfortunate than the fact that people from marginalized communities are dying almost a decade earlier than people who are financially better off. Nothing is more unfortunate that such a high percentage of India's children die before their first year of age. That's fundamentally a reflection of the fact that our public health system doesn't reflect and doesn't respond to the needs of India's majority. Yes, we do have a health system that provides high quality care for the rich, as the previous panelist has spoken about, but fundamentally, we are failing in making sure the best of health outcomes are available for everyone. That's unfortunate. Why do we therefore need universal health coverage? We need universal health coverage to ensure consistently robust health outcomes for everyone, so that we don't lose the human capacities of people. It's also critical because it's known to drive economic growth. If one has to give an economic argument, uh, research suggests that investments in healthcare gives 10 times the return of investment in terms of healthy people who are more productive across the lifespan. Why does India need it now? India needs it now because the rural areas are completely neglected. Only 78% of India's population almost lives in rural areas, but only 2% of medical professionals are available in rural areas. Our two-thirds of the health expenditure in India comes in the form of user fees, which is among the highest rates in the world. And as a result, 600 million people fail to access healthcare each year. Every year, 63 million Indians fall into poverty because of healthcare costs. But the majority of healthcare of Indian citizens are not able to access healthcare. So therefore, why one needs UHC is because there's an economic argument, there's a human rights argument, there's a social argument, and therefore it is high time that the state actually intervened to provide healthcare rather than just relying on the market to deliver, because that's how every developed country has gone about it, and has including countries at our own comparative stages of development, be it say countries like Thailand, be it our competitors among the BRICS. etc. So therefore, if we are to be a developed country, we need to also have a developed health system. And nowhere is this more evident at the time of COVID, when obviously the majority of India is struggling to get healthcare, even when even at the suspicion of COVID, patients are being turned away in the private sector.
So I think kind of answered this next question. But Dr. Velamani, do you think that if if India had universal health care, do you think the situation that we are in currently with COVID would have been a lot different for patients as well as for doctors?
Certainly, if you ask me, COVID specifically is a very different kind of challenge where the diagnosis is not useful for treatment and treatments are not useful for treatment. In other words, there is no specific treatment for COVID. So I would say it would have helped a lot in malaria, a lot about tuberculosis, a lot about the gastro disorders because of which children below the age of 5 very often lose their lives, and a lot of that illness which does not allow you to live could have been managed very well had there been universal health service solutions available in India. But having said that, it's not that India didn't want. India wanted. In fact, if I'm 60 years old. If I look back 40 years back, there was no private healthcare system available. There was only government healthcare system available, which means that those days itself, government felt there is a necessity for it to provide healthcare solutions because the constitution recognizes it as a basic need. Over a period of time, politicians and the governments have not truly upgraded the healthcare system, and all the infrastructure made 48 years back today are all depleted buildings and there is no manpower available. And private sector sensed there is an opportunity some 35 years back itself. In these last 4 decades, private setups have invested money for a better so-called infrastructure because the other one is very bad, and made sure that middle class and richer class have solutions. So that deprived and left out still continue to be that vast majority of those who are below the poverty line, and there is no solution asset. And had they had a fairly good infrastructure, the people living in remote towns also must have felt emotionally as well as morally confident and comfortable that COVID is taken care of, because it is very often it is the panic which creates more stress and loss than actually the disease. So I fully agree. We as a country today desperately need a good basic infrastructure which would help the rural mass, the ones who cannot afford, but it will take its own time. Government starts now, might take 10, 20 years to put it in place.
And just to follow up to that, I mean, this is definitely, I think, this will have a much greater impact on access to healthcare in rural areas if we do end up having a universal healthcare model a few years from now or a decade from now if it's established. But there are two ideas of universal healthcare that are predominant, right? One is healthcare for all in terms of numbers, and the other is quality healthcare for everyone, which is, you have healthcare systems that are very robust and can handle a lot of different varieties of illnesses and preventive healthcare and all of that. So which of these two models will suit India more, and is it like a combination of the two that is universal healthcare?
The big challenge is all developed countries have better risk sharing in terms of using insurance. So it's for instance, and contribution is substantially less. But when someone is inflicted or happen to fall ill, there is a huge expenditure and they are supported by the claims reimbursement. Wonderful scheme. And I see worldwide, all countries, when they evolve over a period of time, when they exceed a particular per capita income level, then all will bother about putting money into securing, safeguarding their healthcare needs. India is such a country where the per capita income is not even $3,000. I believe first thousand goes in eating, next thousand goes in their needs of what you call as fashion and living, and another thousand goes for their housing. The fourth thousand only starts looking at healthcare also as an expenditure. So in India, as of today, though insurance had come in 10, 15 years back, this 15 years, India has not even crossed 5-6% of insurance coverage. All those covered are only the ones who are well earning. They probably will not have that big a necessity as much as the poor need. So if you look at it, it is not because of anybody's failure, it is because of lack of per capita income, which in turn is the government's ability to spend in a pyramid of seriousness, severity of illnesses. There are some which are very painful, but the solutions are, as you say, India is a capital for the world for pills and medicines. If they are made available, the pains, the swellings, and the fever can taken care of. Not very costly. Second one is taking care of all such illnesses which require huge spending, surgical interventions, and also a long-term treatment would be the step two. But without first step, you can't go to step number two. And country like India haven't even still achieved step number one because of lack of ability for people to spend and lack of ability for the government to spend. According to me, the solution going forward is divide this pyramid into three portions. Government should subscribe for all the three a minimum amount as an insurance and get an insurance company to deliver it. And for the middle class, they can add personally more money and get a better facility. And for the rich class, they can add a lot more and can take much better facility. If this is not approached in this way, it will be very difficult for a country like India to get moving on universal health care. I want my fellow panelists to tell her views about it.
I think it's a false dichotomy to have healthcare for all and then say we're ready to compromise on poor quality of healthcare for the majority. Sure, India should prioritize primary healthcare and make sure that it is delivered in a more effective manner. The problem with insurance, sure, different countries have opted for an insurance-based model, but fundamentally, experience of insurance-based provisions, including Ayushman Bharat, have been the fact that there have been high levels of exclusion. There have been it's a false dichotomy. The government needs to make sure that there is good provision for everyone and not just allow the rich to buy themselves out of the health system. Yes, a lot of it is, as my fellow panelist says, is a function of the fact that the government is not spending enough. But I would like to point out that when the government is only spending on roughly 1% GDP on health, it's been committing itself to 2.5 for almost a decade. The global standard is almost 3.5. As share of GDP, many of our neighbors spent more than we do. Therefore, it's not unattainable for this country to invest more and therefore get more out of the public health system.
India is fifth largest economy in the world. And telling that we can't afford sounds very, very challenging to say I am rich, but I am poor. Unfortunately, the denominator is too big, 1.38 billion, which defeats all claims of supremacy of India and surrenders, telling that per capita income of India is too low. And I too agree that India spends only 1% of the GDP, though it claims it should be 2.5%. And this 1% only going to stop those loose motions and stop those deaths, which are at least preventable to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So if you ask me, it is not just money alone. Government machineries are not good at delivering efficiently, because there is no true administrative prowess driving in every district, every state, and every aspect of healthcare. That is where the insurance, though it may do damage, because always a middleman eats a percentage, but insurance will ensure that something is going on. If the allotted money, at least 60% goes to the common man, 40% probably is in the implementation. But having said that, we have to start somewhere, and we need to improvise it, and we need to make sure that all what are easily preventable are first prevented. I believe that you have to look at what are all illnesses and what are all the things which are life threatening, and make sure that they are attended with your minimum 1%, 1.5% or 2% of GDP. And if countries similar in nature are spending 5%, 6%, it is important for the government to give priority and allot that 5-6% for the healthcare, and which is preferably in terms of universal healthcare. And also, governments cannot continue to tell, by being lazy, by not producing jobs, by not improving the economy, that our per capita income is our problem. Per capita income low is government's problem, which the last 65, 70 years, governments have not done anything serious to improvise it. It is very transparent, open, naked. When the COVID has come, with fellow beds, nearby beds, there is a dead body, and there are patients who are sleeping on the floor, patients who are dying in the gate. All this has made everybody to understand we are far, far below than what we felt we are. And it is, I am pretty sure government has taken a note of it, and opposition also has taken note of it. Whether this government continues or one more government comes, all have to keep in their mind that healthcare is most important post-COVID, without which it won't be able to even get votes from the general public.
Let's also accept that our average annual expenditure, public expenditure on health per capita is something like 1,635 rupees, which is effectively 130 rupees per person per month, which is 5 rupees per day. Surely we are not that broke. That's all that we can afford. For us to some indication of the fact that India can afford it is the fact that the wealth of India's billionaires is more than the India's public budget overall. Therefore, let alone the health budget, a little bit of greater taxes on India's billionaires are not going to hurt them as much as it hurts the millions of people who are dying right now. Therefore, India can afford it if it wants to look at it as an investment in the future of its citizens rather than expenditure, which is expensive. Because, as I said earlier, the returns on investment is tenfold. It's not only a violation of people's rights and a waste of people's lives, but it's also an unwise economic policy not to make the investments that are needed.
This topic is also one of those things that divides people over politics, and it is politicized. Health is, as well as education and other things. Will this be less of an issue if there is already the beginning of some kind of universal health coverage model? Will we see less of political influence and bureaucracy in that kind of a system in the future. Dr. Velmi, you could take this. I think Angela had to run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So politicians cannot openly take a stance telling that for me healthcare is not important or education is not important, because then he will not get votes. So there won't be any political indifference in need of the healthcare. Bureaucracy will continue to remain, which is a reason for high efficiency delivery or a low efficiency delivery, or filterage of the budgets and funds. All those things are part of bureaucracy. I think that is human in nature. It is not a political party A has less problem, B has more problem. We need to live with the human weaknesses. So bureaucracy will continue to be a friction, not a block in the delivery of the healthcare. But having said that, we have to actually make it moving, that is impactful. I think I was extremely happy to see the last 6 months. The number of COVID tests done by government is much more than even done by private sector. It wasn't expected. It is a surprise. I am a diagnostic player. I always used to feel government cannot deliver, private can deliver. I was also a government officer for 2 decades, and I knew there are challenges, but it's a surprise to me that government can deliver if it wishes. Also, if you look at the facilities used for COVID treatment, all the government facilities which were otherwise underutilized have fully utilized, and it looks like if government wants, it can do. And whether they have done it only for the emergency and for the crisis, or they have plans to do in a long run across the country and improvise the delivery systems and efficiencies and quality, this has to be seen how the government sustains its hold on healthcare delivery. But let me tell you, there is no cost involved in healthcare. There is no huge raw material involved. There is some capex involved to create the infrastructure. Otherwise, it is purely HR, logistics, and IT. HR and logistics IT is much, much, much cheaper. Only thing is HR is costly, and HR means it is creating once again a GDP. So if you think HR spending is a loss, you are absolutely wrong. It is going to good. It creates jobs, it creates opportunities, and it solves the problem. Crores are unemployed. Crores are suffering with illnesses which can be easily correctable. Government job is to make sure 1 crore helps the other crore, so that it is not only a saving of life, it is also improving the quality of life, thereby improving the quality of workmanship and economy all. So it is all something which has to start. Once it starts, it will improve. And I hope it is the time 2020, post-COVID, India should be seeing healthcare very different, very positive, and very aggressive.
Yeah.
So one of the things that went right during the pandemic was telemedicine, and it has been overlooked before. Like before the pandemic, nobody really thought about it. It wasn't that common. So are there any other kind of things that we can do to ensure that post pandemic or post COVID, we can somehow strengthen our healthcare system and make it more successful, or at least at the start of being a big success for everybody?
We are having too much of faith in the use of technology. Uh, I appreciate that it's an important supplementary tool, but fundamentally, let's not forget we have very low bandwidth penetration of IT. Therefore, only especially in rural areas. Therefore, telemedicine is useful, but it would not replace uh, traditional uh, modes which have been the mainstay of public health provision. Therefore, ultimately, there is no royal road to healthcare beyond greater investment in strengthening the system as a whole. There are no shortcuts. And in fact, with respect to the earlier question, I would love to see more an influence of politics, as we have been always saying. Healthcare has to become it has to become a political issue for it to become for reform. Therefore, politics in this positive sense of politics, it would be the health sector would benefit from non-political interest in the sector. Bureaucracy ultimately it's the role of the state to provide healthcare and also at the same time ensure implementation and grievance redress and ensure patients' rights are respected in private healthcare. So again, call it bureaucracy, call it the role of the state as a regulator. We probably need more of it and not less, because that is how it has worked everywhere. And let's not look at this as a negative thing. You do need to have public provision. We do need the role of the state as a regulator.
Tech-driven healthcare, that is, be it diagnosis in terms of radiology, pathology, or in terms of a clinician interpreting, all will have to take help of digital, especially for India kind of country, where huge population. There are many districts in India which are bigger than many countries in the world. So the population is too big, they are too vast. I do agree with her that the digital penetration is pathetically poor, even though countries claim that they are digitally very, very empowered. So the digital bandwidths have to go up, very important, without which you can't think of technology playing a role. But having said that, I happened to go to US 5 years back for some illness of my wife. It was a 10 minutes meeting with a doctor for whom we had to spend 15 days in the US and travel everything. But in today, after COVID, if I imagine, mine would have been done using a Zoom conference, which would have saved time, energy, money for everyone. I'm only referring to that because that was my personal experience. So today you have got an ability to connect people. Of course, common man himself cannot Zoom connect. There need to be a kind of interfacing done by some entrepreneurs who will make patients to come and understand what kind of patients require what kind of consultant and make sure that they are connected without having a necessity to travel hundreds of kilometers, stay somewhere, because everything is cost. So if you ask me, India certainly cannot afford universal healthcare in the way in which the Western countries could do it so far. India has to take the route of a digital route in which for surgical and all that procedures where you need a brick and mortar infrastructure, you must have, you can't do everything digitally. But at the same time, there are a lot of things, 75% of the medical solutions can be delivered digitally. And I believe that India is pious to move towards that. And it is not a secret that in the entire world, India is cheapest in cost per GB. That is the gigabytes cost. It's the cheapest in India. And being such a vast country, being such a heavily populated country, that digital cost is bound to go low, not up, which means India is likely to consume digital healthcare solution a lot. Not the poor man directly will consume, but poor man's son will be an adult, and that adult will have an ability to search and connect himself to a doctor sitting at his home also. And I believe I'm quite optimistic man. I believe that next 10 years, the digital healthcare in India would certainly transform Indian healthcare system towards better and cheaper and more reliable.
Yeah. Where we could find the money. I know you touched upon this a little earlier. But anything to add?
I would still say it's the role of the state to deliver, because progressive taxation, which doesn't place the burden on the poor, is the only way forward. It's the only way it has worked anywhere. We already have 2/3 of health expenditure in India is already borne by out of pocket by people. Already we have 600 million people who can't afford healthcare. Every year, 63 million Indians are pushed into poverty because of healthcare costs. It is not fair to push further costs on ordinary citizens. It's high time that the government picked up the tab because it's its responsibility to do so. It's its stated policy position to say so for a fairly long time, and it's time that it delivered on that promise.
So money has to come only by right priorities from both sides, from the common man, from the government, and put extra percentage in healthcare. Look at the benefits that are coming out of it, and then get motivated. Keep on adding 1% more every 1 or 2 years so that you have it in place. Money cannot come from anywhere else. It has to come from the pocket of a common man or from the GDP or the taxes collected by the government. They are not judiciously spending. This is my personal opinion. I mean, both government and the common man.
Angela, anything to add there about?
What are some of the benefits that a citizen would get if the country had to implement universal healthcare, and would implementing it kind of be a damper on private companies, because right now they are providing us with healthcare.
Yeah,
I think
at the outside, it looks like the private sector is doing a great contribution. If 100 is what is the need of Indian entire healthcare need, only 25% is attended. In the 25%, private attends 20% and 5% is given by the government. When we talk about entire 100%, it is 75% more in the business. So I don't think a private would have either a fear or a concern that their role will be not there and they can't continue to make that money. It is going to be more into healthcare because addressing the bigger bottom of the pyramid will also help the overall healthcare budgets available and also the opportunity available for the private. So I don't think private feel insecure about it, number one. Number two, I am from the bottom of the pyramid. The village where I was born had only 100 houses. And I understand how this is still till today, that kind of villages don't have one medical doctor available in 3 kilometer, 5 kilometer radius. And the doctors are also not willing to get positioned into smaller towns and service. They are getting enamored by the metro cities and the malls and restaurants and the colleges, schools for their children and their future. Very often there are medical doctors posted in smaller towns, but then they are giving dummy proxy attendance and they are sitting in cities. Lot more are there, unless otherwise there is a change in the mindset, even for the medical community. I want to help the poor, not the rich. The rich anybody can help. I would love to do for poor a solution, which is happening in a very small percentage of medical doctors, kind-hearted and very, very, high-thinking doctors. So doctors should change. The common man's priorities should change. The government's priorities to change. It's going to be a huge task, and only when the ball sets rolling, it will reach to the destination.
Yeah. And Angela, could you paint us a picture of what the day would look like when we do have universal healthcare? After you
People
finish
live longer. People live longer. People are more wealthy. People's pain is less. India's economy will grow. Therefore, really don't see a downside.
So that's it from us. Thank you so much for joining us, Angela and Dr. Velumani. This was a very important and interesting conversation around healthcare in India.
Thank you very much. It was nice talking to all of you. And,
thank you so much.
Same here, Dr. Velumani. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Hi.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you so
Same
much,
here,
Angela.
Angela.
Anything
Thank you
you
so
want to
much.
add before we leave?
No, that's it.
Okay, wonderful. Do join us next week where we'll be discussing India's ambitions in space exploration and missions to the inner solar system, including the moon and Mars. So if you have any questions you would like to ask our experts, send them over to us on any of our social media platforms. Until then, this is Abigail and Kavya signing off. Catch you later on the Earth, Space and the Human Race podcast.